Okay, here at Comic Expo, losing my shit, as always, because he's here.
Hey, I'm Jackson Lanzing.
Collin Kelly.
We write Captain America, and now Thunderbolts.
And primarily write Bucky Barnes.
As you guys know, my mental illness, my mental illness. The tattoo artist who did this is actually here, so if they see this...
It's an awesome tattoo.
Losing my mind a little bit. Alright, so we talked earlier about like Bucky and Steve, how much we love them.
Yeah.
And I just, want to bring this up again. Thoughts on Stucky romance?
100%.
So I think the interesting thing about Stucky as a ship, as a framework to think about characters is that it speaks to a closeness between these two men. It speaks to an emotional bond that they have that people, and fanfic is inevitably going to do this, that people want to see explored romantically, that they want to see explored sexually, whatever, that they want to see it explored in different directions.
For sure.
What I find really useful about, as the guys who are writing it canonically, right?
And we are two best friends, it has to be understood.
Yeah, the thing that we do is we try to take those ideas of vulnerable male friendship and bring it into stories that can express that in an emotional way. So like, we have this beat in Sentinel pretty early on where Bucky and Steve find themselves on either side of this problem, and our whole story is about kind of tearing at their love for each other until they have to sort of come around on it. On this page, if it is the end of me, there we go. So we have this page that gets shared a lot, which is the two of them hugging and Steve reminding Bucky that he's never alone. Now, you can read this page in any way that you want, right? But the thing that it means to us, the thing that it has inevitably always meant to us, is the idea that what Bucky and Steve are each other's safe place. Steve is always going to accept Bucky where Bucky lives, and Bucky is going to accept Steve where Steve lives.
Even when they're driving, the other guy's driving you absolutely insane, and you do, it literally ends up on different sides of a fight. At the core, there's that fundamental love.
Yes.
And that's where that healthy relationship is, and that's what always brings you back to your best friend, even when he's driving you insane.
And so that's the thing, like, as a queer romance to a platonic friendship, literally in either case, I think the important part is that there is a honest emotional love between these two characters that
you talked about how
allows
that
them to be people.
relates to you two as well. Like
100%.
Exactly.
15 years, we've been working together for 15 years, have known each other for 20. We each share one brain cell, and we use it to write the most heart-wrenching comic books we possibly can.
And you're saying how it's important to like represent, dissect like toxic masculinity.
It's a huge part of our work. We really tried from the first book we did. It's called Hackers, which is about literally a sort of popular, handsome dude and his very intelligent, autistic friend who love each other very much but have no idea how to say it. Basically, that whole book is just these two guys learning to be like, I love you. And like, I think it's really hard for men who are conditioned, especially people who grow up male, who are conditioned with a lot of like toxic masculinity, to open themselves up even to other men. Like even just to anybody else, you have a really hard time opening that space. And so what we love to do is write best friends. We wrote Luke and Danny kicking the absolute shit out of each other in Timeless, and yet at the end of the day, what is this book actually about? It's about this moment where Luke and Danny are able to look at each other over the end of this thing and be like, I wish it wasn't you who had to kill me in the end. Like, it's just this vulnerability between these two men. It's not about the punching, it's not about the violence, it's about the catharsis at the other side of it. And so I hope that people can read our books and they can see queer subtext where queer subtext exists, which often queer text exists in our work, but also a lot of queer subtext. But then they can also observe straight subtext, weirdly, and other ways to enjoy the friendships that are in their lives.
As we said earlier, it's like, love is not a binary, right? It's a spectrum, and you can find yourself anywhere on that spectrum.
Yeah, one thing I kind of just wanted to add as well, like my two best friends, I consider them my platonic soulmates. They're both, one of them is more masculine presenting, one of them is a man, and people are constantly like, are you guys dating? No.
Yeah.
No, but this is my soulmate. I would go to the ends of the earth for you. And that's a big thing too with Steve and Bucky is regardless of if they are romantically involved, I think a big thing with them is that to me, they're soulmates. You know, no matter the context, really.
We completely agree.
I completely agree.
Like that's another thing with Marvel too is that they have so many like different love interests depending on the comic.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so many deep, robust friendships in that same way. Like Marvel, it's one of the great things about Marvel is that they are all in some text people. very few gods, lots and lots of people, and they're messy, and their relationships are complicated. It's all just soap opera.
I mean, and that was Stan Lee's genius. Like, genuinely, that was the thing that, like, you can argue about authorship and you know, Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby all day long, and I will normally. But in this context, you really have to give credit where credit's due to Stan Lee. He came in here and he said, what this is missing is the person underneath all of it. And he inserted personhood into everything. And so we try to carry that tradition. We don't, every single story we write, and anybody out there who wants to write comics, this is the thing I always try to, like, throw at you as a challenge. Just if you can write the comic and you can strip out all the genre stuff. If I can take every little bit of this that takes place on the moon and has superpowers and has all this cool stuff and has all these weird things, if I can take all that out.
Take out all the punchy kicky.
Yeah, and if I can just stage that in a black box theater, if I can go to a high school and stage it in a high school theater with no money, right?
Yeah.
Is it a good story?
Yeah.
Is it a story you want to read? Is it a story that has change? Is it a story that brings a character from one place to another? If you're doing that, you're doing Stan Lee. If you're not doing that, you might be making a DC comic, and that's okay too.
You might be writing professional wrestling.
Yeah, or you might be writing professional wrestling. No, even they're
that's
incredible.
True. I take that back. I do not mean to dig on the wrestlers.
Yeah, and I don't mean that as a diss to DC. It's just I think DC is designed to be mythic and thought-provoking and conceptual in a way that Marvel should be. It's heart-forward.
Okay.
And who's more heart-forward than Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes?
Absolutely. You're so right. And then last thing, I just want to share the thoughts you had on our History His Lovers video.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Great video, loved it.
Great video.
Nailed it.
Nothing in there that two totally platonic best friends wouldn't get up to.
And historians will call them close friends.